Yo, let's go and welcome to the video. I want to go over my current gear, what I plan on having by the first raid, which we're going to be doing on launch night of Thursday, October 6th, and talk about what I'm the most interested in gear-wise as far as upgrades go, and it's all tied together behind the same idea that I only recently solidified in the last day or two after the gear that I was originally going after hasn't been dropping in the heroics, but other gear has. So that just changed my whole idea and what I wanted to do in phase 1. So far I have got my engineering up to over 440 and made my engineering goggles, and I have the current Wrath of the Lich King meta gem in there, an old TBC gem in there just as a placeholder for now. Got the Deadly Gladiators PvP necklace, still rocking some Sunwell shoulders, and I haven't got my Sons of Hodir rep up yet, so I don't have the better shoulder enchant. I have the Deadly Gladiators PvP cloak with crit and spell power on it. I got my tier 7 chest. There's been people stopping by the stream asking why I have this in my pre-raid set, because on Wowhead it doesn't show the tier pieces available, but I also have the tier 7 gloves, but I just don't have the gem crafted for it yet. But yes, they are both in the game. The chest costs 80 emblems of heroism, and the gloves cost 60, so you buy your tokens for those two pieces from the same vendor that you get all your other emblems of heroism from, and turn them in to a different vendor in Dalaran to receive your tier 7 gear. I'm still rocking 4-piece tier 6 until I have at least 3 pieces of the set to replace. For my weapon, I still have Reign of Misery and the badge offhand, and I'm still using the Idol of the Raven Goddess. The gloves, again, are part of the 4-piece tier 6 that I still have, as well as the belt. And these legs is one of the reasons why I've changed my mind on gearing and playstyle going forward, but I'll get to that in a minute. The boots, I just got the rep for the Wormrest Accord Exalted boots. I haven't gone to pick them up yet, so still got the tier 6. I bought the Signet of the Kirin 5 minutes after I hit level 80. Still got the Mana Attune Band. The Ring of Guile, I think is what it's called, from Culling of Stratholme dropped, and I left the instance, won the roll, didn't realize it, and by the time I got back, it was gone. I'm rocking Skull of Gul'dan and the badge trinket for now, but I did get the Mark of the War Prisoner. I'm just waiting to throw that on once I'm in raid. That was my current gear. This is the gear set that I plan on having when I step into raid on Thursday. So the helm, I need to change the yellow gem to the 9 spell power 8 hit. I need to get some more emblems for the neck. Shoulders, I need to finish getting Sons of Hodir Exalted and update the gems in there. For the cloak, I'm waiting for a guildie to finish Lore Master, and then I will have that crafted and enchanted with the Lightweave embroidery since I am a tailor. The chest, I need to update the gems as well and get some of the mats for the 10 to stat enchant. For bracers, I had these drop, and these, along with the legs both being crit instead of haste like I had originally planned on getting, is what made me change my playstyle, but again, I'll get to that in a minute. The Titan Steel Spellblade, I've been crafting Titan Steel bars myself on cooldown, so I have another 19 hours to get my last bar, and then I'll get this crafted and enchanted. Still going to be rocking the badge offhand. The gloves, I do have them already enchanted with the hyperspeed accelerators. I just need to throw that 19 spell power gem inside. For the belt, that's one of the last pieces I need to get from the emblems. And one thing to note, you see the 16 hit rating gem in there. You can gain a spell power if you have a certain amount of hit gems that you need. Instead of using a 9 spell power 8 hit 2 times, you would only get 18 spell power and 16 hit. So if you throw in one 16 hit gem, and you can throw in a 19 spell power gem in a red socket instead, you gain that one extra huge spell power. Legs I already have ready, good to go. The boots, I will be picking those up after I make this video with the Nitro Boost enchant on those. The Ring of Northern Tears, I still need to get crafted. And then I might switch idols to the Wrath Idol to start with. That I'm not sure yet, but since the Idol of the Raven Goddess is giving crit to everything, and that's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now, I might just keep this on for the first raid week. But overall, this set gets me the hit cap of 14% since I am Horde. While editing, I realized saying 14% might confuse some people. So it's 14% because On 80 upgrades, it's including the 4% from balance of power, so it's 10% from my gear. And then the extra 3% to get the 17% cap is coming from the improved Fairy Fire. Right, now back to the gear. And in Moonkin form, I'm looking at 28.25% crit. My haste is a bit shy, 169 haste rating short of the haste soft cap. But for this playstyle, getting haste is nice, but I'm not focused on getting to that soft cap. I know I'm probably alone here. Everywhere that you look is going to tell you to get hit capped and then get haste soft cap and then go for crit. I'm ignoring that and stacking crit instead. So the reason behind that is if you've been in a heroic yet on one of the longer boss fights and you've sat there casting 10, 15, 20 wraths and you haven't gotten to a lunar phase, I'm stacking as much crit as I can to try to prevent that from happening as much as possible. And I'm hoping the extra Nature's Grace procs, along with hopefully entering each solar and lunar phase quicker, will help me still do as much, if not more, than everybody that's going for that haste soft cap. So now over to the gear that I'm most interested in getting as quick as possible. The screen is going to change to like a white background from a Google document, so prepare your eyes for the transition. So the guild that I'm in uses a loot list system where you have a couple different brackets that are labeled with different numbers, so 50 being the highest prio pieces that I'm interested in. Anybody else in the raid that lists the same item in the same row, I will roll off if those items drop against them. And I mainly wanted to talk about these top two brackets and the idea of why each item is in the spot that it's in. The tier 7 helm, I think, is gonna be the biggest upgrade the quickest. Kind of like how I prioed the 3 new tier pieces in Sunwell first to get the double 4-piece. I'm prioing the tier 7 helm at the top to get my 4-piece tier 7 as soon as I can. We share the tier token with DKs, mages, rogues, and other druids, of course. Not all of the specs from those classes will be after this tier, but I think at least 7 people in my raid comp are up against this, me being the 8th. Pretty contested piece, and if we didn't get the helm, we would have to get the legs, but I want the leggings of the Wonton Spellcaster for my non-4-piece piece. And yes, we could get the 10-man version of the helm, but I'm just not sure how the 10-mans are going to be working, and I'm more confident in getting the helm quicker and out of the way. So along with the helm, another very contested item is going to be the ring, the Signet of Manifested Pain. I think as well as the casters, some healers are going to be after this. So I have that up there at the same prio, and then the leggings of the Wonton Spellcaster below that, because I think only maybe 2 other specs would be after this, the Affliction Warlocks and Shadow Priest. So I might have 3 other people contending against me for the legs. So hopefully they didn't put theirs this high on their list. I'm imagining they would probably have their weapon up top, the sword. I don't even know the name of it, but mages, Shadow Priest, locks, kind of like TOC and TBC. They all have a really nice sword that they can use for their weapon. So if they have that up top, maybe they would have leggings second, and I wouldn't mind rolling off the legs. But I do have my weapon that I'm after up top, the Impossible Dream. And then to finish off my top bracket, I have Dying Curse. Since Dying Curse takes up the slot next to it, I didn't want to have it up too high, but I also didn't want to have it too low. So kind of put it in the middle of the gear that I'm most interested in. So I am going for the Cape of Unworthy Wizard, hoping that it's not going to be as prioed as the Pennant Cloak from other classes. It has a little bit extra crit on it than the Pennant Cloak, which is the idea behind my whole set. And then the Accursed Spine has extra crit than the Badge Offhand. So all of this gear from 47 up, for the most part besides the legs, is a crit upgrade from my pre-raid gear. From 46 down to 43 is the other main pieces that I'm going after, but it's all haste pieces or tier upgrades, which the tier upgrades would be nice, but these tier 7 shoulders I can buy from Emblems of Valor, but not worried about that one too much. But the chest and gloves would be a nice upgrade, but having some of those 226 cloth pieces would be great to have as well. But again, the main reason for having the top pieces in the spots that they are is because I'm upgrading my crit as soon as I can to help with those lunar and solar eclipse procs to happen hopefully more frequently and often than upgrading the pieces that have haste. The rows 42 down to 34, all of that gear is just like extra gear. Some might have hit on it, so I can swap hit pieces around. This is the entire 25-man loot that I'm interested in, or to swap around hit and maybe get some minor crit upgrades until I get some bigger pieces. So now another hard thing I've been trying to do is come up with a spec and glyphs that match that playstyle. 13 points in resto is pretty common, pretty standard. It's the balance tree where I'm having a little bit of issue. So the first tier, Starlight Wrath, of course, 1 in Moonglow, 2 Nature's Majesty, and I am picking up improved Moonfire. I want to have Nature's Grace maxed out, Nature's Splendor, and Nature's Reach. Celestial Focus and Vengeance, both really good. Insect Swarm and improved Insect Swarm maxed out. Lunar Guidance, gotta have that for the spell power from your intellect. Moon Fury and Balance of Power. Skipping over Dream State, hoping mana is not going to be an issue. Moon Conform, improved Moon Conform, and improved Fairy Fire. Wrath of Cenarius, Force of Nature, Eclipse, Earth and Moon, and Starfall. So I would like to have 2 points in Alchemy Frenzy, and then I would not have Typhoon or Gale Winds. So this spec would be kind of a pure single target based spec, which I think at least the first week, while we're going over the boss fight mechanics, should have plenty of time to swap specs. So I could have an AoE trash spec with both Typhoon and Gale Winds, and then as we're going over the fights, swap specs to this spec and have a pure single target spec. The issue I'm having is what spec could I have if I wanted to have the AoE talents in there. And I think if I dropped the 2 points in Alchemy Frenzy, got rid of 1 point in Nature's Reach, then I could have Typhoon and Gale Winds and use this as more of an overall spec, assuming that threat is not an issue. For week 1, I'm going to try this specific spec, and I might have to change a couple points around as we get faster and we're not stopping to explain boss fights and we're moving straight from trash into the boss fights. I can't really think of many fights at all where Typhoon and Gale Winds, the damage from those is going to count towards the logs. Again, this is week 1 I'm thinking of, maybe week 2. Possibly down the line, if you're able to zerg some bosses, you can kill some ads that you wouldn't normally kill quicker by just popping all your AoE. But this will be my spec on Thursday, and then I'll have a separate AoE spec again that has Gale Winds and Typhoon. Now over to the glyphs. I think we can all agree on the glyph of Starfall, reducing the cooldown of Starfall by 30 seconds. Maybe we can kind of swap this glyph around later on when boss fights get down to like a minute 15 a boss fight, and having the 30-second cooldown wouldn't help out for that fight. But for now, glyph of Starfall. And the other 2 glyphs is another point where I'm kind of up in the air on. Glyph of Focus could be nice on a lot of fights, but also hinder you on some other fights. Like Heigen, you don't want to have Glyph of Focus for that fight. You'll be in range of the cast increase mechanic that Heigen has, but you wouldn't want this on that particular fight. But plenty of other fights you do want this, so for the most part I'll have this. Heigen, and any other fight where I wouldn't want this, I could just swap a different glyph. And now I know there's tons of hype on Insect Swarm, but for this rotation to work out for me, I think the best, I'm going to use the glyph of Starfire. And I'll get to that right now. The rotation I'm planning on doing mostly, starting off with, is pre-popping a wild magic potion for that extra crit, and then I will throw up Fairy Fire. Pop my Treants as long as we're bloodlusting right on the start of the fight. Popping Starfall as long as there's no ads that are going to be coming out a couple seconds into the fight. Popping Moonfire, and then starting to cast Wrath until I get a Lunar proc. As soon as the Lunar proc happens, I'll pop my Hyperspeed accelerators, go into casting Starfire, and that Glyph of Starfire should extend that Moonfire for the rest of the duration of the lunar phase. So I won't have to pop Moonfire during the actual eclipse, and I'll be able to have the full benefit of improved Insect Swarm during the whole eclipse phase. And after lunar ends, I will wait until solar procs. And then as soon as solar procs, I'll finish that next Starfire cast, pop up Insect Swarm, and then Wrath through the solar phase. And without having Nature's Splendor, you could have a Wrath that doesn't benefit from improved insect swarm. It might fall off before the eclipse ends. So Nature's Splendor is good for both insect swarm and Moonfire, even if you don't have the Starfire glyph and you're doing the rotation that I'm doing. If you happen to have an on-use trinket like the Mark of the War Prisoner, I would wait until after the hyperspeed falls off to pop your on-use trinket. If you want to time that with your solar phase, that's what I plan on doing. The first solar phase, popping my Mark of the War Prisoner, and then popping the hyperspeed once it's off cooldown again in the next lunar phase that's available for it. Once the potion cooldown comes off, I'll be popping another wild magic potion for my solar phase, maybe even a couple wrath casts into it to try to have that crit rating once solar ends to help rock the next lunar phase. So overall, that's my plans for phase 1. If not only just the first 2 weeks of raid, I could change my mind, switch again. But that's the great thing about Balanced Druid so far in Wrath of the Lich King, is there's so many options to choose from to switch some things around to match the playstyle that you want to go for. But as you saw in the start of the video, I still got a bunch of pieces to get ready for raid in a couple days, so I got to get back to it. Hope you're having a great pre-patch. Any questions you have, let me know down below or stop by a stream. I stream almost daily now, so stop by and say hey. Here's an example, a little one take of the rotation without having proper spec, glyph, gear. In case you wanted to see it in real time, here it is.